episode 46 of the Beardcaster. My name is Scott Sikora, and I am the Beardcaster. Welcome to a podcast all about beards and mustaches, beard culture, and all the stuff that goes along with it. Hear the stories from the people and learn the tricks of the trade on how to grow and maintain your style with advice taken from our personal experiences. It's all about the facial hair lifestyle we live and our daily lives in the world around us and how we deal with life. So please join me, the Beardcaster, as I share the stories about these people and hear how they are using their facial hair to do great and fun things. Welcome to the Beardcaster podcast. My name is Scott again. You can find out more information by visiting us at thebeardcaster.com. Direct links to all my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and you can easily subscribe to the podcast by hitting the subscribe button, and it'll give you options of whatever podcatcher you may use on your mobile device. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, or if you just want to say, hey man, what's up? Scott at thebeardcaster.com. Shoot me an email. If you're going on iTunes or any of these other places where you subscribe to podcasts, why don't you rate and review? It's real easy. Gets me feeling all tingly inside, seeing all the nice things that people write about me and the podcast. So if that's what you want to do, that's awesome. So yeah, I suggest it. If you so happen to be in the market for a new beard oil, maybe a dry oil, if you haven't heard about one of those, or some mustache wax, any other assorted type of beard product, and you want something that's super high quality and does a really good job, has a long staying power, a great scent, isn't too overpowering, then may I suggest any and or all of the products from Can You Handlebar. It's easy. All you do is go to canyouhandlebar.com and check out all the really super cool and awesome products. Once again, like I said, I'm loving the dry beard oil and the brush. It is so great. It stays in my beard all day. It has a nice tackiness to it that kind of keeps the hold and form for a guy with a longer beard, which is what I like. And it's not real oily, so it's, I don't know how else to explain it other than that, but it's what I prefer, and I'm really glad that I found this product. It's awesome. I highly suggest it. And if by some chance you are going through the store and you're adding stuff to your cart, when you get to the checkout, you can enter a coupon code. Type in TBM15 and you'll get 15% off your entire order. So do that now. Go to canyouhandlebar.com, enter TBM15 to get 15% off now. Now, today's episode is with Mr. Brett Strauss, probably one of the most handsomest men that ever graced the earth. Now, if you've known Brett, I'm sure most everyone out there knows who he is, but if you don't, he's the developer of the Facial Hair League, or the Facial Hair League app that you can download on any of your smartphones or online or whatever. And basically what it is it's an app that it keeps stats of all the different guys that are in all the different clubs and all their rankings all across the nation. So there's really awesome information on the FHL app, like competitions, when they're happening, where they're happening, different club information, news, all a bunch of different things. So I highly suggest you go download the FHL app now. If you haven't, sign up on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it about the app. But we talked about the app. We talked about how it helps clubs who are putting on competitions run a really smooth event. We've used it for years and absolutely love it. I highly recommend any club that's doing an event to look into using the FHL system to run an event. It just helps, makes everything run really efficiently. It makes everything easier, so definitely check it out if you're in a club. We also talked about him being a judge at the 2017 World Beard and Mustache Championship, and I brought up the burning question of wondering why the FHL app was not used at the event, and he answered that one and explained why. So you'll definitely have to listen to hear why that was. It was kind of surprising, and but I understand. So it's really cool. So listen for that. And then he also talked about how the FHL app has helped him develop a new app that a lot of different people doing many different types of events could use to help organize their events. So you'll hear more information about that. So definitely check this one out to the end. There's lots of really good content in it. Brett was so awesome to talk to. He was really he was like so handsome. It hurt my eyes the whole time. I couldn't even look at him. But yeah, if anyone knows Brett, and he's not freshly, I believe at this point he was already had shaved about 4 weeks ago. So his beard was already back a little bit, but the last time I had seen him, it was down. I don't remember how long. It was pretty long, but to see him go from that to the lawyer beard was pretty cool. And last but not least, the last item I'd like to talk about for those who by some chance listened to the last episode 45 with Crystal Davis. If you listened all the way to the absolute bitter end, I threw in something really cool for those that stuck to the end. But I don't know if anyone had remembered, I had mentioned that a few months ago, I used to be in a band called American Rockstar, and it has been over 5 years since we've done anything, and we decided to get back together to do just a one-off show a couple months ago, and we did, and it went really good. We had a lot of fun. It was awesome. We played better than we had ever played before. It was just really great, and when the show was over, we found out that they actually recorded the show, so they gave us the tracks, and we've spent the last 4 months or 3 months mixing everything, mastering it, and getting it all packaged up and everything. And so I had just gotten a copy of the record, or the album, 2 weeks ago or so, and it just sounded so good, so I slipped a song in at the very end, so I'll slip another one in the end of this episode too. So make sure you listen if you're interested in hearing some music that I made, you can make sure you listen all the way to the very end of this episode, and you can get another track. But as soon as the record goes up and for sale, I'll let you know. I don't know exactly how we're going to release it yet, but more information about that. But we got to get right into this because this episode's really awesome. So I will see you on the backside. Here we go. Action. Okay, I am sitting here with Mr. Brett Strauss from the FHL. This is an interview that I've been wanting to get for 36 years, I think. But he has designed the FHL app, which is pretty much, in my opinion, streamlined competitions. It is just the most amazing thing in the world. But let's just talk to him real quick. We're down in Austin, Texas for the 2017 World Beard and Mustache Championship, and he's one of the judges. So we were able to make a few minutes to talk here today and just kind of shoot the shit. So how you doing today?
I'm good. We've been trying to get together for at least the last
32 years.
At least the last year we've been playing phone tag, and I couldn't make it up to your club's event this year, which I was really disappointed.
I was not there either. Great. So I knew you weren't going to be there, so I said, screw it, I'm not going. Brett's not going to be there.
Largest FHL event of the year. You guys had 183 competitors, which is fantastic.
That is great.
Yeah.
I like to hear that because I know the year before we had a really big turnout too for that, but let's jump back to the history of the FHL.
Sure.
Where did it all start? Where did it come from?
So I had attended about 5 or 6 beard competitions, and I was noticing a trend that these guys and women were putting on these events to raise money for charity, and they were really struggling at the events themselves. They were just... I was realizing that there weren't a lot of event managers in this community, people that make a living putting on competitions and events.
Well, I guess that would be similar to, like, I had a job before I tour managed for bands and stuff. So I traveled all over, and it's like you go into these clubs, and they have stage managers, and they wouldn't have stage managers, and you'd have to, like, sit there and try to figure it out on the fly, like how to do this, how to do that. So, and I know from planning events, too, where we didn't use the FHL app, it really it organized it so much.
It does. And I saw these people struggling to do a good thing, and they were all trying to do almost the exact same thing, and they were all winging it. And they were putting stuff on paper, and they were trying to punch numbers into spreadsheets, and And I remember when I was in at the Boulder Comp 3 years ago, and I'm sitting in the back room with the judges, and we're sitting there counting votes. And
that's the pain in the ass part there.
And we come out, and literally half the crowd's gone. And that's not fair to the people that win and the people that take the time to compete. And I was just trying to find something that was more efficient and faster. And I'm in software, and I've been doing software for 18 years. And I just saw a really good opportunity to do something to help the community to automate this process. And again, everyone's doing almost the exact same thing in the exact same order. So started working on the software about 2 years ago. And we've had some struggles in the beginning. Of course, it's always hard when you're doing new software and you have to test it live and you hit bumps.
But can you actually tell me a software developer that made a app or anything that worked right off the bat?
Hey, if
that would be amazing.
If Bill Gates can get a blue screen during a demo with all of his hundreds of billions, then yeah, I would hope I get a little leeway on that. But yeah, we hit some snags. We got sued by Major League Baseball. I literally spent $20,000 communicating with the attorneys for the Major League Baseball over our logo.
Oh, that just
$20,000 in legal fees.
Wow, I never heard that. I never heard that story. That's
I know that's not something you talk about that much, but
no.
It was. Yeah, I got a nice pleasant letter from a group of attorneys in New York saying that they didn't like our logo, and every time they sent a letter, I had to pay an attorney to respond. And luckily, we settled recently, and we've agreed not to use our logo in any baseball or softball related sports. And I had to spend $20,000 to get to that point, man.
I swear. It's just
crazy?
They just like to tie it up in the court system for years, just to make it more of a hassle for the person. Yeah.
Well, the concept of the red, white, and blue sports logo is so ubiquitous, and it's been used out there so many times. And I think what happened is MLB lost control of it because they let it go, and now they're trying to get back.
They were the originators of that silhouette-ish kind of logo.
Thought the NBA was ahead of them. I don't know, but they both.
That's what I thought too. I thought the NBA had a logo like that. I thought the Professional Bowlers Tour had something like that too.
It's
everywhere.
At first they said they wanted me to change the color, and I said it's the color of the damn American flag. You really don't. You don't own
America,
that, man.
You don't own America.
I said that ain't gonna happen. But eventually we settled. But that's just one of the little nuanced things on the side. One of the annoying things you have to deal with. But look, we've got a lot of time and effort and into the development. The application is really very cool. And it adds a couple of elements that don't exist currently. For one, I know every person that's ever competed in an FHL event. I've got a photograph of them, and I know exactly what their judges' scores were.
So you're like Big
I've got
Brother.
the entire history of it, right? On top of that, fantasy facial hair is a fantastic element, which basically allows anybody in the world to log in and predict who they think is going to win each category. They're basically trying to predict what the judges are going to do. Now, that doesn't have an effect on who wins. It's just like fantasy football.
Yeah, it's for the fans. It's for the people that follow it.
And people come in every week, and we've only got about 100 or so that are doing it on an event basis. But we're trying to. I was out here talking with one of the Lone Star reps just last night. We're going to have them donate some prizes, and we're trying to get bigger prize pools for the fancy facial hair. But that's a fun thing that you can add. The great thing about it for the groups that are putting on the competitions is it gives their sponsors a much wider exposure reach.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
They're reaching all of the people that can't be there at the event on that day.
No, you've really developed something super special and super amazing, and I love logging onto it and just checking out. For me, it's more of a information kind of app where I go, well, what's going on? Who's throwing a contest? And that it has all that stuff. It has calendar on there of where events are, who's throwing stuff, and then it has stuff about the charity part's even awesome about that too. Now what other than the fact of trying to design something that was going to help clubs throw a more efficient event, what other things were you trying to help them achieve with this app?
The goal was to help them raise more money. And of course, there's a cost with the FHL, and we do charge a small fee for each
that's
of the
ridiculous part. Is it is so small, and if you're a club thinking about using the FHL for your event, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. We were expecting it to be something more than it was, price wise, but when we talked to you and you told us, we were just like, "Holy crap! Why have we not?"
Yeah. And it's to me, it's a lost leader. I don't make any money off of this.
Yeah.
I spend a lot more in software development than I do in the money that we collect. It's just trying to share the burden a little bit. And most of the clubs, just what they'll do is they'll find a sponsor to cover the cost of the FHL. Or you can raise your ticket by $5, and no one's not going to come to your comp because your ticket's $15 instead of $10. It just doesn't have that big of an effect. And the idea is that if the clubs can show their sponsors that they're using technology and that they've invested more in putting on these events, then I think they can be, in the long term, they'll raise more money. If you're writing numbers down on bar napkins, you shouldn't expect to be able to go out and raise $5,000 and $10,000. It's just not going to happen. But if you go in and show them that you've got a system that shows that that the judges' scores are legit, no one's messing with the numbers. Every time a judge makes a score, it goes straight into the database. There's no question about authenticity. If you show them that you're exposing their brand to a much wider audience through fantasy facial hair, I believe in the long run you'll raise more money.
I absolutely 100% agree with that statement, because in our pitches to a lot of our sponsors that we had wrangled up a few years ago, one of the first things we said was, hey, we're going to be using this really cool new app that's come out like last year. It's going to streamline do you hear that motorcycle? It's pretty loud. But it's going to streamline our event. It's going to make it so much more legitimate. It's going to make the people enjoy the event. It involves the crowd more. It involves the participants. And that's what I took away from the whole thing. And it definitely, I know that helped us sell our event to different sponsors and was able to get us bigger and better sponsors and more money to cover the costs and to have, this app helped us raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more than we would have been able to raise, because we wouldn't have had the proper sponsors. They wouldn't have given us the right amount of money to cover this. We wouldn't have had as many people there. So definitely having the FHL involved in our event really just boosted everything.
And having that fantasy facial hair for the people that are in the audience, instead of just sitting there for 3 hours drinking beer and watching the stage, they're involved. They're picking them. And what that does is that prevents leakage, which is people walking off before the end of the event. And I've been to competitions, and I know you've been to competitions where at midnight, when all the votes get tallied, you go to hand out the trophies, and there's more people standing on the stage than there is in the crowd. I've seen it numerous times.
Yeah.
And you want to prevent that, so you want to keep people engaged, you want a stickiness to your events, and you want to keep them around to the very end.
Well, and I think a lot of that, too, is the calculation of the votes from the judges, because each of the judges have their own tablet with a different app downloaded on it that's connected to the... How does that work?
It's connected to a database via the cloud.
So, and then each judge, now explain, if you're a judge and what comes up, does it not every time a new, because I've never judged using the app, but explain how a club could use the usages for the app for a club.
It's actually I think it's a pretty good process we have for judging. It's actually a two-phased approach, which I think is great. And what happens is each time a competitor walks by in front of you, you give them a score. And the way we score currently is on a basis of 6 to 10 on the half points. So 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5. You give each of the competitors a score. Then when everyone's gone by you, it takes you to a separate screen, and then it lists from top to bottom, from your highest score to your lowest, all of the points that you just gave everybody. At that point, you can do two things. Number one, you can double tap on a name and you can adjust their score. But more importantly, there's a 1, 2, 3 spot at the top of the page. You click on the competitor you like, and then you click on the first, second, or third place, and then you put them in that spot. So basically, you get to give everybody a score, give everybody a review, see everybody before you make your decision on first, second, and third. So it's really a two-pass.
Well, and the judges know who's coming up on stage.
Yeah, you got your pictures.
The picture's right there. So even if you don't know the guy that's coming up, you'll be like, oh, hey, it's Joe Schmo. And then you're like, oh, I know Joe Schmo. And then maybe 2 minutes later, the judge can see him because he's stuck in the back. But at least you know who it is, and it gives, once again, better organization.
Yeah, and when you have the picture and the number of the person at your fingertips right there, it allows you to do things where you don't even really have to look up afterwards. I mean, technically, you could judge a competition without ever being at a competition, because you've got the photos, you've got the app, you've got the numbers. You could literally be in a hospital bed, know. And
now let's look at this too. When people come in, a participant or a competitor comes into an event, if they're already registered to the FHL app, now usually you do pictures, so they go
Always.
into the database.
Yeah.
So if someone, explain that whole process.
Okay, so what we've done is we originally built a registration process and a check-in process, and eventually we combined them into one, because we figured out that the registration takes about 20 seconds and the check-in takes about 20 seconds, but combined you can do them both in about 25 seconds. And the ironic thing is that if you're a brand new user that's never used the app, we can check you in about 20 seconds. It's that quick. We need your first name, last name, email, what category are you in, we take your picture, we hit submit, we hand you your lanyard, we say good luck, and we get the next person in line. Because the issue is at the beginning of the comp, and you've seen it here, you'll see it at all competitions, there's always a bottleneck at check-in. There's always a line, and anything we can do to reduce that line is helpful. At Nationals in Denver last year, we checked in, I didn't, but there were 4 people that checked in, 243 people over a 2-hour period, and there was never more than 2 people in line. It was It was amazing. It is so quick and so smooth. And that was really I think that's one of the really bright spots of the app, is the judging, but also that check-in and registration process. We've got it so fast, and you get people in, and again, you're getting a picture that'll be there forever, that we can keep a history of. We need that picture for fantasy facial hair, so anyone can vote. So there's a lot of added benefits to the process, even though the process it's an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. There's a little bit of give and take, right? So some clubs will have to adjust things a little bit. Like some clubs like to group their people together, so they're 100s of their mustaches and their 200s of this. Our system can't support that, because it just makes more sense to immediately issue a number.
So everyone's just in a chronological order,
It is.
200 could be a long, like, super beard, and 201 could be just a styled mustache.
Exactly. It's irrelevant. So there's a little bit of give and take.
Well, and I do understand, like, I know clubs like to do that grouping of, like, all 100s or, beards 3 and under, all 200s or 3 and over, and I get that, because that's just an organization for pen and paper.
Yep.
So, but your system, it to me, makes complete sense. It's so much easier.
If you can let go of that one process, the benefits are really pretty striking.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what our system does is each time a person gets entered, they are automatically assigned the next lowest available number, which means you can have 15 people in a row, all with their iPhones out, checking in people and handling a large crowd, and they'll always get the next lowest number. So it's instant. And it just makes it a smoother process. And look, we've done this by trial and error, and thank God there were a bunch of clubs that were early adopters of the app. We owe a lot of thanks to the clubs that came on early, because they kind of put up with the bugs and the little things here and there and the issues that we had, but we've really got the app smooth. And I think you can talk to folks nowadays, and the last 3 events that went on, I haven't gotten a single call.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to touch on, because I think that was another absolute selling point for us and we lucked out with this, but you are so easily accessible. It's like, hey, Brett, if we have a problem, then you're right there with us.
Yeah, I'm live. If you've got an event and I'm remote, I got my phone on my hip, and
that's the thing, is like it's instant tech support from Brett, which is really cool.
But we've got the tech support down to almost 0, because a big changer in that was about 3 months ago. I made some videos. I just made
tutorials?
I just did some video tutorials, and I uploaded those to the web. And now whenever...
And those are on YouTube, right?
Those are on YouTube.
The FHL YouTube page.
And whenever I add a judge to the event, it automatically sends an email with the link to the video, so the judge can watch the video before the event. So there's little nuanced things that we're doing that make it smoother.
I did see that, because I ended up watching a few of them like a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, what is this? I'm like, this is perfect, because I'm like, you just keep adding more things to it to make it easier. And I mean, in the business of the music industry, or dealing with events and stuff, or even with the podcasting, it's like, or radio or whatever, is you have to literally, and I don't mean to be demeaning to people, but you have to dumb stuff down to make it super easy and super accessible for more people, because the easier you make it, the more people are going to be prone to take it, use it. And the thing is it's like the app isn't like super flashy. It doesn't have like 10,000 things on it where you're going to get lost. It has exactly what it needs.
Yeah. You got every time someone has a question, that's a phone call, that's a cost, That's time. That's a frustrated individual. So
Yeah.
you're right. You got it. And dumbing it down isn't a bad thing. I usually run things by my mom. She's not a very technical person. If she
Yeah.
can figure it out, then I think anybody can figure
Well,
it out.
that is.
Sorry, Mom.
No. But the other thing too is like in the event that we put on 2 years ago, you came and you were there, which was awesome because it was like you were just running around helping us out, and it was like so much. And that was another apprehension of some of the club members who were apprehensive about using the thing. Well, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? And then to hear that you were going to be there, I'm like, I'm not worried about this at all. It's going to be awesome.
I'm too ADD to sit and drink beer for 3-4 hours. I have to be helping, and I have to be doing stuff in the background. And when I show up at these events, I like to help. I like to see people put on successful events, and I like how happy that they are at the end of the night when it's over and they're having a few beers and they're enjoying what they did. And really, what the goal of the app is to take all the stress out of the day of the event, because the day of the event is a very tiny amount of the effort of putting on a competition.
Yeah.
It's the other 364 days of the year that you're raising money, that you're getting donations, that you're working out all the details. That's the hard, heavy lifting. If we can take all the day of stress out, then everyone can relax. That's really neat to see. When you see a club using the FHL app, you used to see a dozen club members running around with stacks of paper and scrambling, and now you see 2 or 3 people doing the whole event.
Yeah.
And you see people in their club just sitting there drinking beer and actually enjoying the day instead of just being burdened with the stress of it.
Well, that's another big selling point for us, because it was, and once again, going back to the tallying of the scores, it's you have one guy who's sitting backstage with a laptop, they're handing paper, he's sitting there tallying everything up, then he has to like put it into like a spreadsheet, and then the next thing you know...
Without making any mistakes.
No, yeah, without making any mistakes.
Probably has a beer in his left hand, which is fine.
Yeah, but then next thing
I've seen scores get lost.
Oh, but then, my big point is then you look out into the crowd and everyone's just kind of dwindled away, moved away.
Yeah, it's the quiet time.
Yeah, and it's like... just the fact of instantaneous scores and instantaneous results going to all the judges, and then for it to be able to be announced, it just moves.
Literally,
Yeah.
in the snap of a finger, it's tallied. And if there's a tie, it alerts the judges, and the judges break the ties instantly. That was a new feature.
And I will say, too, I think that if I remember correctly, our event 3 years ago ran over, like, by a lot. Your app literally, I think, cut our event by 2.5 hours, time-wise.
I know in Sacramento, and Sacramento's been a big supporter of ours. They've used it 3 years in a row. I'm sure they'll use it next year, hopefully. They actually, because of the tiebreaker, it saved them, because their tiebreakers were kind of time-consuming. It saved them like 30 minutes. And they were actually at one point asking us to slow it down. And the same thing in St. Louis. We were moving too fast, and they didn't want everyone to leave. The bar didn't want everyone to leave too early.
Yeah, that is the problem. When you're making an agreement to have an event at a location.
Yeah.
They are in the business of making money, so that's. Hopefully you align yourself with a friend or someone who owns a venue, so you're helping them out too by having an event at their venue, bringing in patrons that are going to purchase alcohol or whatever, food.
You don't want them leaving early.
Yeah, you don't want them. You don't want them to leave early, but you also, as an event coordinator, you want to make sure that you're keeping the people that are coming to the event happy and make them be involved and make them be entertained.
Yeah, and some of the larger comps like Sacramento, they don't want it to run over either, because the venue, they usually use the railroad venue out there, the railroad museum, and there's employees, there's union members that are working, and they're on contract till midnight.
Yeah.
And when you run till 1 or 1:30, man, that is not good for anybody.
No.
So there are cases with the larger events where you really want to keep that down to a minimum. You don't want to run over on the time.
Okay, now let's go off on a tangent here, because we are at, like I said, the 2017 World Beard and Mustache Championship in Austin, Texas, presented by Remington Beard Boss, as I'm reading that off your thing, because I wanted to make sure I got it right.
Yep.
But, okay, my big question, why is the FHL not involved in this event?
Good question. The Austin Club wanted to make some changes to the judging process, so they are using a 5 to 10 on the 10th of a point scoring system. So there's actually 50 possible points, whereas our system has 11. And we just didn't have the time to retool the software. That's the drawback about software. When it works flawlessly every time. but when it's not a flexible solution, I can't change it in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it's not like you can sit there and code something like overnight.
No, well, I could. Even if I could code it, I would have to
and
test it. I would have to upload it to the Google Store, to the iPhone, to the iTunes, and then iTunes sometimes gets your apps loaded in 3 days, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks. So there's a lot of gray area in there, and I think there were enough changes that would have had to have been made that we didn't really have the time to do. But I hope the next Worlds they consider it. I think we're growing. We've done 87 events so far, which is a lot. We've got 60 or so more clubs that are using the app, and it still grows. I mean, I'm still getting calls every week or so. I'll get a call for a new club wanting to do an event. A lot of them are smaller events, but some of the bigger events are joining too.
Oh yeah, I mean, every club, every comp can benefit from this app. I mean, my biggest beef with this weekend, I mean, this is an amazing venue. The events,
they've killed it here, man.
I mean, I think around 750 competitors. Like, to me, that just boggles my mind. And as we go through yesterday of all the mustache categories and all the Whiskerina categories, and you're bringing each contestant out on stage, doing a little chit-chat, and sending them on their way, going by the judges, then there's downtime.
The tally. And that's really hard for the MCs.
I know.
Now,
that puts too much stress on them.
Now, in their defense, I think they're doing a great job. And I think that the as far as the scoring system, they're using a paper system, but it's still, I think, the best paper system that exists, the way they're doing it. And it's actually remarkably quick. It's not instantaneous, but it's remarkably quick. But I know it is a little tough on the MCs when they have to wait even 5 or 6 minutes.
No, that's why I feel bad for them. and then I see like the crowd kind of getting all that antsy pants, and that's what and then the other thing too is like the check-in has been really kind of difficult, and I feel bad because number one, it's like 2,436 degrees here right now, and you have a long line of competitors that are trying to check in. That you can't get everyone into the venue. And they're standing out in the sun, cooking and sweating. And then, got some guys that have styled mustaches who are out there, and, the heat's just fucking it up. And then you get inside, and there's like a huge long line, and you have to like go through this whole process. And, I feel bad for the competitors, and I also feel bad for everyone that's checking them in because they're, trying to go through them as fast as they can. And it's like FHL app could just...
It could have, but I mean, they've done some remarkable things. I mean, they put everyone's names on their lanyards.
I know. They spelled mine wrong.
That's amazing, though.
I was really upset about that. SKY.
Scott with 3 T's? No, I mean, they put everyone's names, and most of the people, they put their clubs on these lanyards.
Yeah,
that's a big commitment, which means 98% of these people were pre-registered. So, honestly, if that's the only thing that they did wrong this whole event, that's nothing.
Well, absolutely.
And it's over. There's no line today.
Yeah.
Check-in's over. Everyone's in. I think these guys have hit 5 out of 5 stars. I'm blown away.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I don't want to like nitpick on stuff because once again,
But I do agree with your point. It's that there's always a bottleneck, and if you think about it, it gets back to event management. Take away the beards. Take away all the competition. It's an event. It's like when you go to a professional football game. You've got to get 40,000 people from the outside to the inside, checking their tickets and making sure they don't carry anything dangerous on them. It's an event management problem, and you need to take it seriously and look at it that way. You can't. The bottlenecks are what will hurt you. So in a technicality, the FHL is an event management. Yes, it is.
It's an event management product for a club.
For competition,
but it's also...
We're actually in the middle right now of white labeling the app. So we're hoping to,
oh my gosh,
we're
that
not...
sounds horrible.
Well,
I don't know what that means.
We're not going to recover our investment costs through the bearding community. It's just not that type of community. There's not that much money.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're taking the app, we're stripping away the concept of the beards, and just saying this is an event competition management application.
I was just going to say.
It doesn't matter if you're competing with dogs, you're competing with racing. It doesn't matter. It's got the check-in. It's got the fan voting. It's got the judging. There's all sorts of. Troy and I spent 4 days up in Memphis at the World Barbecue Championships, and we're talking to those guys, trying to get them to adopt the software because they're using pen and paper. And it's a massive thing. And with pictures, again, you get photographs that remember the dishes and the competitors forever. And and anyone in the world that's into barbecue can log in and pick who they think the winners are in each category. It just massively expands your engagement opportunity.
Oh, and that's what I was thinking. I'm like, wow, you could apply that really to a dog show. You could apply it to any, and I'm like,
it doesn't matter.
And I just wonder, like...
That's where we'll make our money back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but thankfully you started it on us.
It had to start somewhere, and it's ironic. I mean, I think if it's... And the application is called Best in Show. So it's bestinShowApp.com is the website of the new white label version of the app we're rolling out. And the goal is to sell it to any group. I mean, beautiful baby contest. It doesn't matter. Anywhere where there's a set of judges, this application can be used.
Wow, I love this. I really love that whole concept because, I mean, if I was into something else, I would wish the same thing. Like, hey, I wish there would be something that would make this all...
And we have something like a beard card for each competitor where you can go in and see all the events you attended, what place you got, all your judges' scores from each event. I mean, that's really very cool, very modern. It's all very instant.
Well, and then you guys give away the credit card thing too that has your thing, which we used, which, I mean, any club can set this up, but like you say, if you're throwing an event and be like, hey, Joe Schmo's bar down the street, we're doing an event there. Show your card. They'll give you $2 off all draft beers.
That was the idea. It was to help the clubs keep your competitors visiting the bars and the restaurants that supported you and that you wanted them at. And just tell the bar, hey, if they flash an FHL card, give them an extra 15% off their tab or 10%, anything. But it helps you tell the members coming into town where the best places are to go. Eventually what we'd like to do is to embed a map into the app so when you're at an event you can look at a map and see the ones that honor the FHL card to give you the discounts, whether it's motels, hotels, restaurants, bars, things like that.
Like AAA.
The long-term goal.
Wow. This is great. I mean, like I said, I can't speak enough for how great this app is and highly recommend any club that hasn't used it really to consider. I mean, it's very minimal expense to putting on an event, which, like I said, using this app will help you sell your event to sponsors.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's just such a great app, and I recommend it. And just to hear that you're taking it one step further and trying to move it outside of what you originally designed it for makes me even more excited for you, because it's just...
Well, it just makes sense. I mean,
you're such a good man. Like you're so.
I can think of at least one person that would disagree with you.
Well, we won't go there, but you're just like every time I see something.
Scott's coming on to me right now.
I know I am. I'm trying to
this is
really
embarrassing.
hold myself.
This is embarrassing for both of us.
That's because he shaved his beard off.
I did. I took off 18, 20 inches of hair
all of it, pretty
about
much.
3 weeks ago.
We'll just say he has about 2 inches of hair right now.
I've been called the second most interesting man in the world.
Well, he does look like that. But you do look like a lawyer now. I heard someone yell.
Someone said who called an attorney when I walked in. Yeah. I do look a little corporate. I think that was part of the goal, though.
Yeah, but that's all right, man. Yeah, it'll help you sell stuff.
I
outside of the bearding world.
I still have a software company. I mean, I have a software company called NetExam that has really kind of helped me fund this entire thing. And NetExam is a B2B learning management system. And we have customers like Dell, Oracle, Johnson & Johnson, Intel that use our software to train their salespeople and their technical people how to use and install their products. That's my background in software, and we build apps and mobile apps for that. So I already had the skill set to do this.
Now, okay, let's talk about that. How did you get involved? Like when you were growing up, hey, I want to do stuff with computers. Is that pretty much?
Computers didn't exist when I was growing up.
Oh, the Apple IIe, I remember like. That being
they had a computer class in my high school, and it had kind of 3 of the nerdiest people in the entire school, and no one else really cared.
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated in '85, and personal computers weren't really kind of peaking for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And even in college, it was Fortran, it was COBOL, it was really, they were doing punch cards. Practically.
Oh, yeah, I remember
that. I missed out on that. I really kind of fell ass backwards into this community, into technology. I got a degree in psychology from the University of Texas at Dallas. I spent a couple of years traveling around the world, finding myself and seeing everything, and I came home and I realized my psychology degree didn't do a whole lot of good for me. And I just got into computers more as a hobby than anything, and it was a very easy addiction for someone with ADD like me. I mean, I was hooked, and I would spend, when I was building my company, I would go 7 days a week of work. I would work 14 hours a day, maybe do 8 or 10 hours on the weekends, each day of the weekend. I mean, I was just driven. And I can't keep that work ethic up today, but I still do a lot of work late into the evenings, and it's an easy thing. I love what I do, man. You should come to my office sometime in Dallas. I've got a beautiful little office. We've got 8 people there. We've got 34 in our other office. And I go to work, I kick off my shoes, I pop them up, I turn the TV on, and I sit there and I code all day. And I love what I do. I mean, I absolutely love it. I feel like a professional basketball player, although I think ball players get tired. I think they lose their love when it becomes a job. Yeah. And I literally love my job. I love what I do.
That's very inspiring to hear. I mean, I've really got to know the real Brett Strauss today.
Close enough. This is the closest you're going to get.
I know, but we're not going to
with our clothes on.
Yeah. But I appreciate you making the time to sit down with me.
I'm glad we finally had a chance.
And
man.
I loved how, like, every time we'd see each other for the past 2 days, okay, got to remember, we got to get together, we got to do it. We're going to do it. So I appreciate you remembering to do that.
No problem.
And the extra effort that you put into this. But give me some website addresses. I will put them in the show notes for this. And let's tell me.
Yeah, facialhairleague.com. I mean, that's the most important one here. That's the one I'd recommend. Right. And we're always making updates to it. We're always adding new features. I'm way behind, but we even have a wall of fame where we take the best in show of every FHL event and we put their picture up there.
Oh, that's cool.
And we've got like 2 years worth. I'm behind about 6 months on those guys, and I've got to get them updated. I apologize, but I think that's the first time that exists. That there's some type of historical, accumulation of all of these events combined.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good too, because it's documenting it for history. And
you're there forever. Well, until I stop paying the bill for Wix.
Yeah. Well, and there's been a small not to keep taking this on, but there's been a small contest in my town for, I can't trace it back, but I've found newspaper clippings from the 40s. And like 1 year they'd have it, then they wouldn't have it for 2 years, then they'd have it again. But I can't find any documented history of anyone that competed in it. No. And that's what I've been trying to do over the past 3 years, 4 years that I've been doing it, is to try to make sure I'm getting everyone's name, and I'm trying to, post it somewhere so everyone knows that it'll, at least in history, these people won this, and here's the history of the whole event. But that's great about what that.
Your grandkids should be able to look you up and see your face. Your grandkids should be able to Google, if Google's still around. Yeah, they should be able to Google you and see your picture from way back when. I like having a history, and keep in mind, we have a photograph and the judges' scores of everyone that's ever competed in every single FHL event.
Wow, it just accumulates year after year after year.
Yeah,
so
just gets bigger.
Wow. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it, man. This is great.
Thank you. And cut. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you so much, FHL, for all the awesome... I'm thinking an app like it's a person, but the app is like a friend to me. It really has changed my life. It's helped in so many ways to make my life so much easier when you run an event. So like I said, if you are running an event, organizing an event, make sure you check out the FHL app. There's just... contact Brett. If you're in a club, you want to do an event and have FHL part of it, email Brett and he can explain everything to you. Just highly, 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 highly recommend it. It just makes everything wonderful if you're doing an event. Like I said, thebeardcaster.com has all the information you'll need to know about me, how to get in contact with me. Scott@thebeardcaster.com is my email, and you can get all of my social media through there. And pretty much that's all I really have for you today. Last but not least, if you go to CanYouHandleBar.com, don't forget to enter that coupon code TBM15 to get 15% off your next purchase at CanYouHandleBar.com. Go with the dry oil, my friends. That is my suggestion. That's my recommendation. And I guess that's pretty much it. I really can't think of much more other than, as I always say, share this with a friend. Share it with 2 friends. Tell someone about this podcast. I'm really trying to help the bearding community grow and be understood more by the people outside of the bearding community. I'm trying to bring as many people into it as I can and try to offer as many different angles and aspects to all the cool things that us in the community with beards, or women without the beards that are with their husbands or boyfriends or just are really into it, that are here. But I'm trying to get the word out to everyone about how great the bearding community is. So if you can share it with a couple people, I'd greatly appreciate it. So thank you once again for checking out the Beardcaster. Got a great new episode already in the works for next week. Definitely check it out. Download it, rate and review on iTunes or whatever you listen to it on. And I guess that's it. So thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Ciao.
Thank you.